Good morning, everyone, and welcome to The Modern Market, which is now a show with a green new logo, with a green background for the first time. But the concept is the same. We still discuss everything to do with the modern market every day. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, the perps market, the pump market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. And loaded up for discussion today, we have pump rallying to an $8 billion FDV after buybacks hit a total of 500,000 Solana. Galaxy Digital, we talked about that last week, following through on their Solana purchases, did another $306 million buy of Sol on Sunday, with total buys for the last 5 days at $1.55 billion. And finally, the crypto trading volume hitting a record high for this year in August at 9.72 trillion US dollars, a lot of which obviously is being driven by future and perp trading on exchanges. Also, we'll have a longer portfolio discussion today. I feel like there's tons of things going on, from RWAs, robotics heating up, meme coins potentially coming back. So kind of want to know where we are placing ourselves in this environment at the moment. I got Brett with me today in the co-host seat, and we are almost ready to get into it. But just before we do that, a quick reminder, friends, that nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is extremely risky, as bullish as it might seem. We do not know anything for sure. So please do proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Brett, it's a new week. You have a matching shirt for the new green background. You didn't know that we're going to have a green background today. I do love the color coordination. You have adjusted your colors, your lighting in the background as well. How are you doing? How are you liking the screen environment?
I was about to throw it back at you because you're green-ish, not the same green, but a greenish. You could tell it's the first day because this actually bothers me. I was at like 60% chance of flying over to my closet to my right here and just like grabbing a random shirt just so it's a little different. But we persevere. I'm going to stick through. Yeah, man, it's a good morning. We I feel like I'm not coming back to you after a long break because, we spent a lot of time in the chat this weekend talking to the crew. Everyone's putting on plays, doing shit. Like, I know, you mentioned the RWA stuff. So we did a little bit on Friday. We did a little pump playing on the weekend. Everyone else was throwing stuff into the chat, Punkster, a few other things. Yeah, it was the trenches feel warm again. Toppy maybe on some things. I think we got a little overextended on stuff, but I'm excited to talk about the portfolio, what we're thinking for the future, and this week specifically, because there are some things coming up.
Yeah, that was quite a strong signal for me to see in our Modern Market Telegram community over the weekend. I mean, the level of activity is always, I would say it's constant. There's like constant chatting going on, but I feel like over this weekend we had a ton of like yield strategies, potential plays, tickers being shared.
Strategies. I don't know what chat you were reading, bro. No one was looking at 10-15% yield in the chat I was talking in. These guys were fucking like, it was getting degen, levering up. Like there was no yield strategies in my conversation.
You had the not yield strategy, but you had the bit with the with the what is it with IP and like MNEF, multiple closing and stuff like that. So that gave a spin of being a yield strategy. But apart from that, it was way more degenerate. Absolutely agree. And we had a fair amount of tickets flying around. So
I actually even had to pump the brake. I had like one or two other ones that I wanted to throw in there. I was like, this feels like a moment where I'm getting a little overextended, and I'm just like, people are turning this into a hot chat. So I was like, all right, I'll put those back pocket. I'll monitor the situation and maybe bring them in when it makes sense. Yeah, on the Hype D thing, I had mentioned to you just before the show. So people who aren't listening, I did like a conspiracy theory post over the weekend, and it was like, I think I'm gonna pivot some more into it today once the market opens. It might be opens here soon. And it was because it's like, man, there's like some cabal-y shit going on, and the guy, I've looked for him on Twitter. Whenever we first talked about them way back in the day, I tried tracking him down to get him on the show, and I could not get the guy, not LinkedIn or anything. Could not find the guy. But since his recent move to CEO, he created a Twitter account, and like some people had tagged him. So I followed him, put him on alerts. The dude hasn't tweeted since like 2023. Like, dude, okay, whatever. And then he literally tweeted it like 2 hours later. So that was sick. He tweeted, I commented, I sent him a message, I followed him. He followed me back, so I was able to actually like talk to him. Yeah, he may come on the show, so we may get some insider information for the listeners.
Nice. We like that. We never had someone from it for sure, right?
Yeah, that's what like that was kind of like what stood out the first time we were thinking about it, like whatever, it was like 3 months ago, probably at this point. We're like, man, we should like do this kind of shit because we can have that conversation. We can, we're interested, like we'd get some insight. So yeah, I shot my shot.
Sounds good. And I definitely want to have a bit more of a breakdown on your thoughts on that in general when we get to the portfolio bit. But in the meantime, let's get started as usual with the price action. Let me get it up on screen for everyone watching on video. Looking better again. BTC is down 1%, 114.8K. ETH is up 3%, is down 3%, sorry about that, at 4.5K. Definitely did rally to 4.7-ish over the weekend. XRP doing the same thing, being down 3%, 298. Solana corrected down a bit as well, down 4.8%, $235. Still up 10% over the week though. UNB, very same picture, down 2%, still up 5% over the week at $920. This is pretty insane to see BNB defending
That's
that all-time high region so strongly.
It's crazy. And this makes me think of Mantle, right? Like we've talked about Mantle probably 2 or 3 times on the show. And it came up again. Damn, what was it? Like 2 weeks ago, probably. I was like, dude, Mantle's nearing an all-time high. Like, what the fuck's going on over here? So MNT is the ticker, and I started looking into it, and it's because Bybit is there you go. So go like zoom out on that guy.
So that's up 46% over the week, still 32% over the month, and 195% over the year. And that's insane.
All-time high. So I started stacking it up against like other chains, and honestly, it's not comparable. Like you basically have to treat this as a Bybit token and not a chain, right? Because they're using it to like the same thing that you see with Binance and with Hyperliquid and with a few of these other exchanges where they say, buy a certain amount of this and you get cheaper fees, maker takers, all this shit. So, and because I looked at the Mantle like actual ecosystem, and it's dog shit. There's nothing there. There's like 5 people on the chain. There's like $10 in TVL. Actually, TVL is pretty high because like the treasury's in the billions. But we knew that. Like it's just like they've always had this war chest, but they've never had actual like users on the chain. But now that the token is being associated with the exchange, things change a little bit. It's actually the highest priced L2 token out there, like more than Arbitrum, more than Optimism, more than all the other ones, even though it's chain instead. So it's hard for me to come up with a framework for it, but I'm going to continue to look into it and see if there's any opportunity there because, yeah, it's surprised me.
That's interesting. And what's the FDV? $10.5 billion FDV.
Yeah,
Completely,
but I mean, if you look at
completely escaped me, to be honest, that this has happened.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, thank you for bringing that up. Also getting into our other majors, alternative majors, Hyperliquid holding up pretty well, down 1.5%, $53. Sui down more, down 6.5%, and sitting at $3.50. Also taking a look at the meme coin side of things, and this is, let me get it on screen, looking pretty red. Doge is down 10%. But again, still up 12% over the week. SHIB is down 7, Pepe is down 7, Pudgy down 7, Bonk down 10, Trump down 4, SPX, Moritz Coin down 9% as well. Floki down 8, Dogwith had 8, Fartcoin is down 10%. Basically, everything is down 7 to 10%. But most
it
of
doesn't feel like a meme coin moment, right? Like the narrative right now is it's money, right? It's buybacks. It's the revenue meta. I hate calling it a meta, but it's the like people are starting to go back to, dare I say, fundamentals on some of these things, which is why I was trying to like some of the things I was looking for were underappreciated fundamentals, like tickers would buy or tokens would buyback, whatever. But yeah, it doesn't feel like meme coin season right now. It's streamer coins and it's revenue coins.
But still, over the week, some of these coins look pretty good. I mean, can't deny that Modeng is up 40% over the week. Rect, that is obviously with more fundamentals, up 17%. what else? Something else was running a lot over the week. But yeah, I agree. It's interesting somehow, right? Because you have obviously Pump Fun doing incredible numbers. You have very, very strong buybacks, which we'll talk about a bit later in the show. And you have this like creator coin frenzy. I think even Alex Becker posted today that he's
Yeah.
gonna do a streaming creator coin as well. So
It feels very friend-techy. Like I
yeah,
remember, like it's the same. I mean, it is the same thing, right? You appeal to people who have social presence, and you try to get them to do the thing, and the thing launches a coin, and like it was a key back in the day. It was effectively a coin, an asset you can buy that is correlated to their popularity, and then you're like, yeah, everyone's scrambling to get that. At the earlier you get it, the higher the likelihood that you are that you're doing well. They're trying to just generate volume with fees. It's we're gonna have the same arcs, right? We're gonna have like the only fangirls that come in. We're gonna have the big like daily loud launches a stream, or like, we're gonna have all this shit because it just means they make a bunch of money on fees. Kook launched a stream over the weekend. There's a lot.
yeah. It is, and it's gonna attract more people. But we're gonna get into this. Let's maybe just quickly get the headlines out of the way, a bit of
Mhm.
a NFT overview, do the Web3 roundup, and then just straight get into the portfolio conversation. So, as we said on top of the at the top of the show, we have Pump rallying to an $8 billion FDV as the first main headline after buybacks hit a total of 500,000 Solana. You have Galaxy Digital following through with the purchases, adding another $306 million worth of Solana over the weekend, and total buys over the last 5 days hitting $1.55 billion. And third headline, which we'll cover, is crypto trading volume hitting an all-time high for this year in August at 9.72 trillion US dollars. In terms of the NFT price action, the majors are down a bit. Bored Apes down 4%, sliding on the 9 ETH, 8.75 ETH. Pudgy's correcting down 1%, 10.17 ETH. Moonbirds actually being up 2%, 2.67 ETH. Down over the week, though, 7%, but Moonbirds definitely, where that ecosystem had a very nice week with the Fidgetals, which we talked about, which sold in the millions on Collector Crypt, and they are up 3x as well for the individual NFTs, figurines, cards, whatever they're going to be. And the 12 packs are up around the 2x, so at least this is where they were this morning. Honestly, however, out of NFT land, I would argue that the most interesting story right now is Punk strategy. Just for reference, CryptoPunk's currently sitting at a 48 ETH floor, that is $220,000. And Punk strategy, which is created by Rhinotic from TokenWorks, is a protocol that takes 10% of trading fees whenever you buy or sell the token. There's 10% fee, and it uses those fees to buy a CryptoPunk. Whenever there are enough fees in this protocol, the CryptoPunk gets bought and then gets listed at a 20% premium. And in case that sale goes through, those proceeds are then again used to buy back the Punk strategy, the Punkster token, and burn that. And this token did see a massive, massive run, came out at some point last week, went to 2-3 mil pretty quickly, and then like literally exploded to 30 mil over the weekend. I think it now has corrected down a fair bit to where is it right now? 12, 14 mil is where it was before we started the
Oh
show. Yeah,
wow.
60 mil. So basically down a ton as well. But I feel like that was an interesting life sign out of the NFT communities to see like a concept that typically doesn't fare too well. I would argue like tokens with a buy and sell tax don't do too well in crypto over the long run. But this had a very, very good momentum and picked up a total of, according to Roto, 6 bucks. Bought the last one 1 hour, 1.5 hours before we started the show.
Did it flip any of them, or is it
Uh,
still holding 6?
I didn't check that. I don't know that right now.
Because that's the entire thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at least to like keep funding it. And that was the reason I almost entered in, but I decided not to because I was like, man, like one, the 10% tax each way is pretty heavy. If you're that's friend tech style shit. And that was like literally the same shit as on a bonding curve, 10% each way. It's like you have to really hit some profit, and you have to have a lot of people come in after you in order for you to make that even like break even. So I just held off on that because it required the punk market to continue to send so that it could fund itself with the flipping of the actual punks. So like it's a little bit of a punk accumulation engine right now, as opposed to like a punk flipping engine. Um, which is nice, but like it's not something that I thought had like a shit ton of upside unless I started seeing like the actual punks like start rallying it on the timeline and shilling it and talking about it, which is a potential still there. But like, yeah, you just need a lot of flows. Like, so that's what held me off of that one. But it was interesting, and I think it could be better with other assets, other NFT assets too. Like smaller amounts, I think probably gives it more traction because you can only buy one punk every whatever day or so with this. If you buy one every couple hours, like that's kind of exciting. It's kind of weird. It's kind of interesting. Bigger community.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. And shout out to RCIV in the YouTube comments confirming that they're still holding all 6 punks, and the
Yeah.
first one is listed at like 55 ETH. But definitely thought that it was an interesting concept, so I wanted to bring that up. Uh,
The guy is the most interesting stuff. So the TokenWorks thing that he did. So this is a guy that's experimented a bunch in this space. You guys have probably interacted with something that he has done and not even realized it. Just to name a few, whenever Shape came out, he did the circle on Shape, that black circle that like if
oh,
you
really?
every time you
That
bought
was
or sold made it bigger or smaller.
yeah,
He
yeah.
did something on Zora to where every time you bought and sold, it like actually destroyed the image that you were like buying and selling against, or like whatever was tokenized. So like the more you bought and sold and like transacted, the worse the image actually got. So you actually degraded it with it. He did the golden handcuffs, which was like this like fuck, what was it? He just does a bunch of these like really like cool experiments on chain, and he's been doing them for a long time. And about 6 months ago, he teamed up with TokenWorks and said like, hey, here's a thing, give me some money. It was like 1 ETH to buy an NFT, and you can sell the NFT back to me at any time for the amount that is left in the trade, like pro rata, your portion of what's in the initial buy. And anything I do in the future, I'll try to make it sure that you guys get a little bit of it. So for this specifically, I minted one at the time. So 1 ETH was $2,500 at the time. For that, I am one of 136 holders who get 1% of the fees from this. And I think the math I saw yesterday was that it's roughly equivalent to like $1,000. So I got about $1,000 for all this activity for him doing this. And like if he continues to do stuff, I continue to get stuff.
And I remember you telling us about that specifically, but I had no idea that there was like this plethora of experiments that already had happened in the past. But I do like the fee accumulation, which you mentioned. And I think it was Cyrus or someone else posting and asking like about strategies for ape, pudgy, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
And he commented like with the soon emoji. And I also
Oh,
saw that
thanks.
these domains like ape strategy or whatever that is
Oh,
.fun,
they
etc.
already. Yeah.
obviously got bought up already. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Smart.
Look, let's get into the Web3 roundup to get that out of the way as well, and then get into the portfolio chat. Couple pieces of news from around the space. First of which, Tether unveiling their new US regulated stablecoin USAT with Bo Hines as a CEO.
Yeah.
There was this speculation. Bo Hines, who was the former digital assets advisor to President Donald Trump, leaving that position. And the question was, did he get a very interesting offer? What has happened? And now we do have the answer to that because he did join Tether in August, so last month, and will be the CEO of Tether USAT, which will be this regulated dollar-backed stablecoin for the US market. As the first piece of news, a second piece of news coming out of England, that the Bank of England proposed stablecoin ownership limits, which are way, way stricter than anything else we would see in either the EU or the US of A. And the Bank of England plans to impose caps of 10,000 British pounds to 20,000 British pounds. It's 14 to 27K for individuals, and about 10 million British pounds. It's 13.6 mil for businesses on all quote unquote systemic stablecoins that they define as tokens, which are already widely used for payments in the UK. or expected to be used in the future. So that is a very strict restriction that the central bank is discussing, and also very hard to impose on a decentralized ledger. Then again, a different news also coming out of the UK from the London Stock Exchange, planning to launch a blockchain platform for private funds, which would be powered by Microsoft. Thought that one was pretty interesting as well. And last piece of news, which came out of Thailand, is reports that 3 million bank accounts have been frozen as part of a anti-scam crackdown, apparently also affecting innocent people and businesses in the crossfire. This was reported via Cointelegraph, which triggered a very, very strong response on social media, with a lot of people saying, thank you for crypto, thank you for Bitcoin, and kind of highlighting the value of our decentralized space again. And that got quite a lot of traction. So even though it's just crypto adjacent, I wanted to pick that up as well. Is there anything from the roundup that's standing out to you, Brett? Anything else that caught your attention over the weekend?
Over the weekend, no. So, I'm sorry. I heard you just talking about like the being thankful for crypto. Was that related to the Discord takeover of Nepal, or was that the other revolutions going on in the world today? Because like I
No,
saw that.
I didn't touch on the Nepal thingy.
Yeah, so like that happened too, and it was I saw the exact same sentiment. So like there was the overthrow of the government in, again, I believe it was Nepal.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was
okay, so
Nepal.
okay, in Nepal, where there had been a trend on TikTok where everyone was making fun of the wealth disparity between the common man and like basically the politicians, and they had a nepo baby trend where they're making fun of the gap, and because of the push of doing all this stuff, showcasing the gap on TikTok and Facebook and wherever, as Instagram, the government started blocking their social media, and because they blocked their social media, everyone got really upset. They started protesting, and they eventually got to the point where they literally overthrew the government. Right, so they marched down to the Capitol, and plus all the politicians' houses, literally killed some people, like dragged them out of their houses, beat them, like took it over. They elected a new prime minister via Discord vote. So that was interesting. They literally just all like did like a mimetic revolution via all social weapons that they've been used to, or that they've grown to use over the last few years. And over that, they were like, yeah, like in the interface, like we had to use cryptocurrency because like it was the only thing that was stable and accessible and like we could actually use. So like as the world becomes more and more unhinged, like the value prop that is digital assets like this are becoming more and more prevalent. And I think as unfortunate as the circumstances are, it is good for our bags.
Yeah, it's also not only good for our backs. I feel like from a more broader perspective, from the society's perspective, it's good that we now start to have this alternative way of self-guarding, self-hosting our own funds, and doing that in a way that makes it way, way harder to freeze these. I mean, obviously, you still need to get your funds out to fiat in most cases if you want to do anything with them, but just being in custody of them makes a tremendous, tremendous difference. I see Funky with his hand up. Funky, what are your thoughts on our discussion so far, which did take a bit of a political detour?
Well, I'm just curious if what's going to happen with the Bitcoin mining. Because remember we talked about that months ago, how Nepal suddenly got on the scene with all the Bitcoin mining. I wonder if the plebs are going to
Did I
overtake
remember that?
these.
That's a good question. Yeah, and we did touch on that. I think, where was that? Well, there was this article that they started. Yeah, they expect at least they're monetizing its excess electricity, and they're expecting at least additional $2 billion in foreign direct investments as a result of that, because they do produce an excess of 20,000 megawatts of hydropower. And as you said, use that to mine some Bitcoin. Will be interesting to see where the new government, or in which direction they will take that, for sure. Look, now that we did the Web3 roundup, let's get into portfolio chat. I feel like, as you said, a lot has been happening over the weekend. A lot has been happening last week as well. Couple of things. This is the way I kind of want to do it. I want to share the things that I've been looking at that I found interesting, and hear your thoughts and the things you had to look at as well, Brad. So what stood out for me, on the one hand, is let me bring it up on screen. That is from CoinGecko, which now has a category for robotics, and that robotics market cap has been moving massively over the last 24 hours. Even like robotics market cap is up another 30%, albeit still very low, 445 mil, which we are speaking about. But I think it's interesting from the perspective that we mentioned this on the show a couple of months ago, how difficult it is to actually invest in robotics outside of crypto because so little companies are publicly traded, and the investment rounds that we're seeing are happening with very, very large ticket sizes. Remember last week when I shared Simon's post from Moonrock Capital, who talked to one of the biggest robotics companies and realized that the mint ticket was larger than the entire assets under management that his VC firm has. And I feel like that might add to the reason. If we bring up the individual tokens, all of them are up anywhere from like 25, 60, even 95% for Neuron, which was the former AI Arena over the week. That we've seen a couple more rounds happening in robotics outside of crypto, and we start to see some interest from the quote unquote like more traditional AI companies flowing into robotics as well. And finally, it seems that a part of that is flowing into crypto. I did get some exposure over the last week to some tokens on this list. Again, overall, if you look at that $445 million market cap, with the majority of that obviously being the top 5 players, so to speak. But I find it a very interesting industry and one that I wanna keep my eye on. Brett, any initial thoughts? Is that a sector that you're looking at? Is that a sector that interests you at all?
No. So I don't want to get spread too thin. Like, so I have very strong opinions, and I have a very firm framework for looking at and evaluating and comparing a lot of these things that are in this revenue generating bubble. And I feel like that is the thing that
What's the
is
framework that you're applying to look at these things?
just quantum. Like, I've been tracking the fees generated by protocols and apps for literally years now. Like, that's the thing that I have been looking at. That's the thing that I am on top of, that I have all the tools. I know all the websites. I have all the pins. I have all of it. So if I need information to like assess, reassess, like talk about whatever, I feel like I could be in that conversation. The AI thing has been so outside of my periphery that it scares me, frankly, that like I just don't know that, like I don't want to like focus on my niche that I think is doing well, that I think is part of the meta, that I think is doing like has legs and will continue to do legs. And I think I don't need to run down the risk curve for crazy things like that. Like, we're sitting here talking about DATs, we're talking about stocks, we're talking about, revenue generating protocols, the top ones. And like, as we saw over the weekend, and like now, like with Pump doing its thing, like there are plenty of gems inside of that meta that I think are going to catch a lot of waves, that I want to stick to that. And if I feel like I want more exposure, instead of having to go down the risk curve to something that I don't understand, I can just levy up a little bit inside of the thing that I understand, which is like what I did with Pump, right? Like, I felt a little late to the Pump trade, even though we've been talking about it this whole time. I felt dumb. Like, I literally put you onto the trade. I literally have a badass like entry, but I put a stop or take profit on it 3 weeks ago on that fucking token, right? But like, just because I was playing around with leverage and like getting used to tools, had I focused on the thing that I was already talking about and worked on the thing that I lack, and the thing that I lack is like translating my thoughts to like actually putting on the trade, which is something I talked to you, like I said, I mentioned about you this weekend, where like I think you have a really good skill of seeing something and acting on it, putting on a trade that expresses your view. I don't have that intuition these days. So like, for me, that is the thing that I want to work on, is in my bubble, trying to make sure that I put on trades that express my view. And then if I feel like I am late to something, I can then just lever up a little bit.
That's a very, very interesting thought process. because it's quite. Let's put it like that. I didn't get comfortable with leverage trading. Like I tried, and I still do it occasionally, but I do a leverage trade maybe if I wanted to buy something as a 50K spot back, then I would do 15K and put on 3x leverage to have like the same spot exposure. But I don't use it as sort of a catch-up mechanism when you are early to a trade or early to an idea, but you just didn't execute on that, and you want to execute on that, and basically making up for the already lost upside to add leverage to that, because you still see that discrepancy in revenue relative to market cap or FDV, and you believe in that thesis. Makes a ton of sense, but not for me, because I just don't get that comfortable with large leveraged positions, which I know is not really rational and probably just needs more training and more button clicking to get used to that. But I still feel more comfortable to buy an additional spot back. And I did that with Pump, and I bought Pump with significant size. But I wouldn't have felt comfortable to take that spot exposure and even add, like, say, a 2x leverage on that for whatever reason.
I went up to 5e, a 5 spot, and then I think everyone's just getting so comfortable with this shit. Like I had people talk to me this weekend, like, yeah, I've had like a 20x long on this thing since last week. It's like, man, like 5 felt like a little exorbitant to me on the pump trade, and like I'm still sitting in it. I got lucky to like literally catch the hour wick before it sent, so like put me in comfy zone like for a while, so I can sit in that position for a little bit and let it run, which is great for me. I don't know that I could do that for like, I don't have that. I can't, I'm not in tune enough to like continuously check my positions and like monitor babysit at 20x. So I think, I got to find my comfort zone. And all big traders say don't do leverage ever. They just say don't do leverage. It's like, I don't want to get comfortable with it, but I'm getting a little comfortable with it.
That is a very, very fair point. I still look at my bets like as a percentage of total portfolio size and allocate like that. And probably if I did the math in the same way and would look at the principal and not at the leveraged exposure, because worst case I lose the principal, obviously not the leveraged exposure that I have, I might get more comfortable with that. But for the moment, maybe it's also a result of what you said. You don't want to babysit a 20x long, because I feel like I act through different or to more fields and have more active bets going on at the same time. That might be an additional reason why I feel more comfortable to do that in spot. There's also a couple more things which I'm looking at, but I also want to go to Oxy to hear his thoughts on our portfolio conversation so far before I share the other topics.
Yeah, thank you. So I kind of agree with you, Brad. Like, I don't want to spread myself too thin, but like I've got AI play versus revenue generating product play. That said, I remember when we talked about robotics originally, Legendary, and I think right around that time or soon after, Vader kind of did a pivot to robotics as well. And at that point, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I mean, I've been in the Vader ecosystem for a long time. So when they pivoted, the price like plummeted like crazy. And I actually bought some at that point, thinking like, okay, this robotics, that might be an interesting way for people to get exposure through crypto to robotics, which was like inaccessible before, whereas AI seems to be more accessible. Is that something you're looking at, Legendary, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily at the moment. I feel like I don't have the capacity to also go back to look at the quote unquote traditional AI plays, but kind of wanted to focus on the hot new things of decentralized physical. It's deep. It's decentralized physical AI, artificial intelligence infrastructure, whatever acronym they came up with. So I'm more focused on the new things and didn't go back to revisit my old AI backs, but I did see some of them moving quite significantly as well. Because the other thing that caught my attention and that I have shared on the show a couple of times as well is the RWA side of things, obviously massively driven by this Pokemon craze that we're seeing at the moment. We did see another sale go through over the weekend, which was actually a real bid, wasn't any fake sale, of this Japanese base set Charizard Basically, the first edition, which was printed without the rarity symbol, which I'm sharing on screen, would be in the like bottom right corner of the card, makes it one of the rarest cards, sold for $640,000 in an auction on Golden. And similar massive chart or massive price action to look at is Collector Crypt. The cards chart is just got to a point where it's absurd. It did hit 700 million FDV earlier in the weekend, corrected down a bit. It's still up. It's still down 11% over the last 24 hours, still trading at almost a $600 million FTV, but it's basically up 10x from whenever it came out 2 weeks ago, earlier this month. And we are seeing, there was this report by Masari, massive volume on Collector Crypt, Fidgetals, Courtyard, TCG Emporium, BZ, and all the other platforms which basically offer a similar thing, tokenized cards, tokenized collectibles, a gacha element to be able to spin for them, a marketplace to be able to trade them. We did see this massive TG from cards, and I feel like the other platforms will have to find their own position in this space if they want to TG and be like successful with that. It's sufficiently different from the rest of the others. But I feel that because of the fact that Pokemon's 30th birthday is still a good amount of time out, that's going to happen in 2026. It's going to happen towards the end of the year, that we still have a good amount of like hype left in this season. And I just would feel bad to not lock down another RWA play and see which platform could be interesting in terms of a potential airdrop, which platform could be interesting because it's sufficiently different. So I feel like there's not a ton to do in terms of getting token exposure. And I did sell my cards airdrop earlier last week because I thought that even at like 400 something mil, 450 or 60 mil, that this is a crazy high valuation. But it does seem that the market has appetite for more. So this is mostly me volume farming and obviously collecting some Pokemon cards as a result of that as well. But that's not necessarily crypto specific at all. It's just the collectibles market. But I do think from an airdrop perspective that this could be something interesting to do. But it will also probably die down quickly. And Brett, we've seen that many times before, right? You have a certain platform setting a trend, doing a successful TG, maybe have like one successful copycat where someone doing a sufficiently different spin on that concept that their token does well as well. But after that, I feel like the attention dies down if you have like 7 or 8 of these platforms.
Yeah. On that, I actually over the weekend I looked into cards, which is the Collector Crypt thing, because I was wondering, okay, like we interacted with the Moonbirds thing, right? We purchased some of those boxes;
Yeah.
those are doing well. So we're like, okay, is this a platform that's going to continue to do well, generate fees, like grow with the RWA token or not token card frenzy that we're seeing on the timeline? And I started looking at it and like, it was a pretty big flash in the pan for the platform specifically. Like it's generated a decent amount of fees, but like that 1.6 million or whatever volume fees would like that came from that day was a huge outlier for the protocol. So for me to want to bid into it, I would need much more consistent uptrend and utilization of the actual protocol before I would start bidding the token. What is it?
Do you know why that is? Why you don't see this like consistent daily revenue come through?
Because they have to keep buying cards, right?
And they struggle with that. And they basically what you see is they collect cards for a couple of days over the course of a week, bring up the gacha machine, and then
it's drained instantly, right?
Yeah, it sells out within the hour. And as soon as a few of the grails are gone, because you spin, I don't know, a $50, $250 pack, and some people hit the 10K, the 15K, the 5K grail, whatever, and they keep that. Some will sell it back, but some will keep it. And as soon as this is gone, they have to shut down the gacha, the claw machine, and come up with or buy new cards. And once that is done, only then can they start the machine again, which is a result of probably the general hype around cards, so around Pokemon cards specifically, and 4 or 5 platforms fighting to get supply within the same market.
Whoa. Two
You-
things.
You did share the DeFi Llama
I
chart.
did. Yeah, man, I fucked up. So two things. Like one, there's this, which is like, yeah, you can see like it actually is a little bit of an uptrend, like pretty consistently as I get in there. So like that's encouraging. I was actually going to look at the cards like ticker price to see like what it's actually looking at like today and like has been over the last few weeks. And in that journey, yeah, thank you. I found Avantis, which is the perps protocol that launched on Base, which no one really thought about. They just had a TGE, and it was like the number one. And like, I just pulled up that chart, and I told my friend yesterday, I was like, based on like what they're actually doing in revenue versus like the price of the ticker, is like I'm not interested. And then it pumped another, what is this, 50% overnight. So like, my bad, bro. Who I talked to yesterday. Yeah. So there's that. But yeah, so collector crypt, like for on the card stuff, that's something that I need to actually do a little bit of the ratios and see like how it's doing relative to everything else.
Very
I think
curious.
I think it's possible that the cards ticker is front running a lot of the actual activity, which is what was going on with Avantis, right? Avantis is like people are pricing in a lot of growth on Base for this platform because right now it's actually not generating a lot. I think the last week it generated like $360,000. So it's like it's nothing compared to like a lot of these big boys. So like if you just do a pure ratio on like, oh, it's generating, 1% of the fees of Pump Fun and it's worth 5% of the ticker, right? Like if you just do like a normal ratio like that, like we did with Pump and Hype, just like a general idea. It's like, yeah, it doesn't like, why wouldn't I just bid more of Pump because Pump is, or Hyperliquid because it's the bigger platform generating more revenue and worth less on a relative basis. So like there's a little bit of a mean reversion thing there too, but that's like a little bit of my framework.
Definitely agree with that. A lot of the potential future growth being priced in the current price action. I feel like with cards, it's the same thought, right? It's, the machine is only running for 1 hour a day or 1 hour, a couple hours a week or whatever. What if they have constant and consistent supply and can keep it up at all time? But still obviously remains to be seen if the demand side would also work out the same, which I highly doubt that people would spend 24 hours, 7 days a week with the same to the same extent as if the stock, if the supply were so strong that you could do that consistently, it probably would slow down significantly at some point. Look, we have about 10 minutes left in the show. I said I definitely want to get in to all 3 headlines, but I also want to hear before we do that from you, Brad, because you mentioned stocks, you mentioned that specifically. You did share a couple more thoughts on Hype D at the start of the show, where you're currently sitting with your personal DAT strategy, so to speak.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I did a conspiracy theory tweet over the weekend where I was looking at my bags. So I mentioned Hype D recently as something that had corrected back to 1 on the MNAV. And that like how you actually calculate the MNAV matters, right? If you look at Blockworks, it's at 0.8 right now. If you look at like shares outstanding, it's actually multiples of the MNAV, like 3 or 4. So I was like trying to do some digging in that. And whenever I did, I saw that there was a press release on Tuesday of last week, which happens to coincide with the final day of the USDH ticker bid. On that day, they announced that, hey, we are fully pivoting. The guy who had come forward and like originally pitched that we do this, he was the CFO at the time. He's now our CEO. Like the CEO is resigning, which means they kicked him out. Like frankly, it's just like a nice way to say, hey, get the hell out. This guy's taking over. They promoted the CFO to CEO, and they like are full in like we're doing the hype shit, right? In the press release, they also said like they reaffirmed their affiliation with Max Faggy, who is our Fige, however you say his name, who is the guy who is part of the native markets team, who just won the USDH ticker bid, which was a little cabally, right? Everyone was like bitching on the timeline saying, hey, this is the unqualified team. Paxos is literally partnered with fucking PayPal and giving 20 million of incentives and like use this, but like, native markets was just the one that always won. So like people were questioning whether or not the entire vote was a farce. So a little cabally inside the Hyperliquid ecosystem, potentially. Hype D has initially positioned as a validator. Like we're all in, we're working with Max, we're going to be a validator, and then had over the last few months also said like we're also farming kinetic, we're doing things to be active on chain. So like we are all in the growth of the ecosystem and being effective with our capital. So I saw all these things and said, okay, this is a particular treasury company that, even though it's smaller than the other one, there's two big ones right now, SONN and Hype D. Even though it's the smaller of the two, it is positioned well to be a validator. It is positioned well to generate actual yield on the chain. It is positioned well with Max as an advisor who has initially set them up to be a validator and is now the one that is going to maintain all the stablecoin growth. So like there's additional connections there. So all of this leads me to believe that, okay, the MNAV associated to this stock can potentially be over 1 pretty easily if you factor in like the growth of Hyperliquid, which I do believe Hype will continue to grow. It's swelling right now. I do think we're a little hot with the ticker stuff, the USDH thing, and I think that'll take longer to materialize than a lot of people actually would like to admit. It's not going to be an overnight thing. It will literally be months to years to actually like transition from USDC to USDH. It's just not going to be easy. But it is still, I don't know, I feel like there's a lot going on there. So for me, as someone who wants to increase my exposure to the ecosystem, I have funds that are in an IRA, which means I cannot bring them on chain. And I basically have them split between Hood, Coin, and now Hype D. And after reading a little bit of like some big trader stuff, they said, hey, if you have conviction bets, be a little more opinionated and like direction on those things. I'm losing some faith in Coin, so I'm having to either put that into Hood, or now I'm allocating a little more to Hype D as the Hyperliquid exposure from within my TradFi portfolio.
That's super helpful to hear your thought process on that. And if you say that, people are not realizing how long this transition from USDC to USDH, the native stablecoin, could take, talking about like months to potentially even years. Does that also mean that, if this excitement will die down over the next months when people realize it takes longer and the price action corrects, that you see your Hype D bet as something more long-term to, if other things don't change, to hold it on until that goes through? Or is it like more of a short-term play for you to see if it just goes one MNAV and then sell off?
I mean, so again, this is my IRA, which means I don't get taxed on it, and I can't even use the shit until I'm 65 unless I get taxed. Like that's how it works in America, or like this particular vehicle, right? So if I take it out before I'm 65, I get hella taxed on it, and all of my trades are tax free. So like I'm not worried about actively trading it because I don't have to worry about short-term capital gains, and I'm not taking it out for a long time. So it's just like, fuck it, let's have some fun. And it's spot, like I'm not doing options and shit in it. So I'm not too worried about it. So if I think, even though like I think it's a play that'll take longer than most people realize, I just, it's something I'm okay playing around with a little bit. And if I'm going to be here, like we're going to be sitting here talking about this shit every week for the next million weeks. So I will keep my eye on it. Hopefully we get the guy who's actually running the vehicle on the show. He responded and said he would. So we just got to find a time that makes it work. Hopefully get some insight. And then, if it all grows, which I think it will grow independent of the USDH thing, I think just Hyperliquid has a shit ton of momentum. You're seeing a lot of people talk about it. It's the biggest revenue generator in our space right now. It's just like ride that vehicle. Sometimes the consensus bet is the easiest one. And if I feel like things are getting shaky, then I fall off and maybe go towards like ENA whenever stablecoin X comes live. That's another one that I want exposure to once it actually hits the market.
Sounds good. And I know we spent most of the show today talking through all the different portfolio thoughts, different sectors that we're looking at, and I hope that this was helpful. But I do want to
speed run the rest.
Use the last couple of minutes, speed run the rest, get in the main headlines. First of which, kind of touched on it already. Pump Fund is up 60% over the last 7 days, is up 135% over last month. Did go above $8 billion FDVs, currently went to 8.3, is currently sitting at 8 again. It definitely has changed massively in sentiment from a trade that was very, very hated to almost becoming consensus. I saw that sentiment shift so quickly that got me worried a bit, to be honest, when people said it's not only the biggest opportunity, it was Zoo with the post. Not only the biggest opportunity in crypto, it's the biggest opportunity of our generation, and everyone jumping on that bandwagon. The positive side, and showing this on screen from the Dune dashboard, the holder growth is quite strong. Basically, almost doubled up from the start of September, from where is it, 50K to 90K wallets, so up 80-90%. Also on the amount of holders, but it is becoming a bit of a consensus trade. And then you have Camel saying that, he sees a generational trade in opening and the aggressive short on pump. And I don't know if this was serious, if it was shit
And
posting.
he's shit posting.
Probably, yeah. But Mike was definitely pushing back on that, and still the consensus on the timeline being that this is gonna go so much higher. I still hold my spot back, but I do start to be a bit concerned. And you can't argue against the buybacks. We said it, 500,000 SOL, which have been used to buy back the token, took off offset 6.6% of the total circulating supply, is extremely impressive. Yeah. Where do you see it from your framework at looking at market cap to revenue ratios?
I acknowledge the sentiment that like things are getting, like, it was very consensus. Everyone was bricked up on it. I had like 2 tweets that ran to like 100,000 something impressions because so many people were loving it, because there's a little bit of the thesis of like what's going on. So like, yes, I feel that. The thing that has me okay riding it even from here, is like not trying to trade it out, is because like, one, it is the biggest revenue generator in our entire space right now. Like, it is about to flip circle for number 2 on the 24-hour. Like, so a lot of this like craziness, that the froth that's going on, only adds to the upward pressure that it actually applies to itself. So it makes me okay to let it continue to ride a little bit, because all of this craziness attracts new people. The new people that come in attracts more volume, more whatever, which generates more fees, which goes into buybacks. So like that flywheel, even though we know, like you and I know, it's not a sustainable thing that can go on forever. And like, this is something that we need to be aware of, to like try to feel for Toppy vibes. Like whenever like the president is launching a stream, like who the fuck is going to be the next person to do it? We need to be aware of those things. But I think right now I'm still not seeing like true froth outside of our little bubble, that I am scared to I'm scared to like hold on to my tokens or my positions right now. And again, I'm a 5x long, but I'm in a decent position, so like I'm fine to let it ride a little bit. Whenever like the streams I'm seeing are just have such viral potential for other streamers, that I think it'll attract net new people to get weird. Like, things don't feel weird yet in the actual like product side. Like whenever streams start feeling weird, just like in the friend tech days, when you have like, again, Daily Loud coming in and creating a friend tech room, and like you have the only fangirls that come in for like a week and a half, and then like we're gonna have that exact same arc with this, where like, it attacks or attracts different bubbles of people outside of our ecosystem that do streaming. Whenever we start seeing those people consistently coming in, and it feels like you have to have it's hard to keep track of all of the new people that are launching streams, that are sending coins, that are doing the thing. That's whenever it starts getting like toppy, and I want to get out. But until then, we ride.
It's fair enough. And I think let's leave it at that. Tackle the next headline. Brad, we said Galaxy Digital did buy another 306 million of SOL over the weekend. What is the story there? What's going on?
Yeah, I actually have a hard stop after this, so I'm going to do this one and not to bounce. So
I'll wrap up and do the last one myself.
Nice. So, okay. So the headline is obviously that Galaxy Digital scoops 306 million in Solana after a deal from Crypto Treasury. What the article itself breaks down how Galaxy Digital partnered with a few other entities, Kyle Samani and Multicoin Cap and a few others, to launch Forward Industries, which is a DAT for Solana. You're going to see a big roadshow from them this week, where Kyle's going to go on CNBC, a bunch of these places, and talk about like why Solana is the place to be for the future of France. They're actually going to mention like, the thing that they're parroting, which we tagged last week, or I tagged last week, was, the entire world can settle on Solana, right? It can handle the capacity today with 65,000 TPS with all of its bonds and equities and whatever. They can all settle on Solana. But they accumulated over the weekend or over the past week 1.5 billion in Sol, which is why the price has melted up pretty heavily the last like 5 to 7 days. And they were tracking them on chain. Now, this article actually calls out that it's Galaxy Digital that's doing it, and Galaxy Digital is a part of the cohort that makes up the consortium that makes up the Forward Industries, and there was no actual confirmation from them that this or that is the reason that they were acquiring the Sol, but the numbers match up, right? They raised 1.5 billion. They now have acquired 1.5 billion, so they matches up. So you can infer that that's what it was for. But that's the thing. They've accumulated all that. You saw some back and forth with other people making fun of, or not making fun of, but calling out the teams because the team position itself as being advantageous or having advantages because they could acquire locked Sol from within the ecosystem, and that's what they were going to do with part of the 1.5 billion Sol or 1.5 billion dollars. And they came out and said like, no, we are literally market buying 1.5 billion with that 1.5 billion, and we have the ability in the future to acquire locked Sol. Like that's part of our strategy, but they are separate separate things. So the thought is like, and I may even enter it here today if I have the time, is enter into a little Solana liggity long on maybe a little bit of leverage, just a touch, because like with Kyle starting his roadshow this week and selling to TradFi, and now there are other Solana DATs, about $3 to $4 billion worth, that are lined up that now have to basically come in after them and try to keep up. It's probably going to have some upward pressure of the Solana token. So I may play it a little bit. I'm unsure. I have a busy day. I would like to do it if I have some time, but the next 4 hours are blocked out for me. So,
Yeah, Moritz did express the same thought, saying, announce you're raising billions to buy a token, market front runs you, price pumps 20% before you even start buying. That's our peak stupidity, but also one of the freest trades ever. So we just shut up and enjoy the free lunch. Funky, see you with a hand up. Quick one from you, and then I'll tackle the last news. See you, Brad.
Yeah, there was just some conversation going on in the modern market chat about the FDV of Forward Industries, or Ford, the one that actually has become the thing. After doing some digging, the FDV is over 3 billion because new shares were issued as part of this deal, which was on a filing just about 4 days ago. Because it looked like people, like Brett was saying, maybe the MNAV was at like 0.04 because it was showing the old number of 62 million for the total market cap, but is now over 3 billion, which puts the MNAV at 1.85. So, if you're thinking about throwing some money into Ford, just be careful out there. Not financial advice at all.
Super helpful commentary. Thanks for sharing that on top, Funky. And let's move on to the final headline. We are a couple minutes over time. Been running overtime for the last week or so, which ultimately I think is a bit of the result. There's so much going on in the market, which I quite like. And the last headline is total crypto trading volume hits a yearly high of 9.72 trillion in August. That comes via CoinDesk, who did publish a bit of research on that. Makes it the highest monthly volume of 2025. A couple interesting things from that article or from that research is that this growth was primarily driven by derivatives trading. The article says that jumped 8% to 7.36 trillion and accounts for 75% of all centralized exchanged activity. Spot trading did climb as well. That did 2.36 trillion over the month of August. And then the interesting part is, and this is why I actually want to bring up the report, that Hyperliquid did gain significant ground during August, rising to a 5.31% market share with a strong continued month-over-month increase. You can see Hyperliquid on the chart that I'm sharing here, if I zoom in a bit. So that is quite significant if you think about how much volume the centralized exchanges are making up together, and that Hyperliquid is literally now doing a 5% market share of this insanely large market. And with that being said, it also brings us to the end of the show for today. Thank you so much to Brett for who had to jump, for co-hosting the show with me. Thank you so much to Funky and Oxy for joining us on stage. Thank you to everyone in the YouTube comments for your contributions, and as always, helping out with the citizen journalism if I struggle to know something on the spot. As per usual, we will upload the episode to Spotify, to Apple Music. We'll clip the episode later on as well. And we're going to be back tomorrow, same place, same time, 7 a.m. Eastern time. In the meantime, have a good Monday and see you tomorrow.